On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is TalkTV. Live from the News Building in London, this is the News Desk with Tom Newton-Dunn.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Talk TV, a bold new channel. Straight talking and straight reporting starts here. I'll bring you the news at 7 o'clock every night. So let's get on with it. Coming up tonight on the News Desk.
This is a deeply shocking incident.
A grandmother was among 4 members of the same family hacked to death at their home in southeast London. A man is arrested on suspicion of murder. Facebook don't care. The family of captured British soldier Aidan Aslin, interrogated online by Russia, say the social media giant has ignored multiple pleas to take the video down. Rayner sexism row in an unprecedented Commons speaker says he will haul in a newspaper editor over a story alleging Labour's deputy leader tried to distract the Prime Minister by uncrossing her legs.
He had a feel about him of entitlement. I was 21, he was much older than I was. He had a power, what he said went.
In our headline interview tonight, we speak to the former royal aide who says Prince Andrew lunged at her. And Downton Abbey is back. The movie sequel Downton Abbey: A New Era premieres in London tonight. Reporting on those stories tonight and sharing their expert analysis, specialists from our newsrooms around the world. This is the News Desk. Thank you for joining us. So, to our top story tonight, an NHS worker was one of 4 people stabbed to death in a horrifying bloodbath at their South East London home today. Dollet Hill, who was also being treated for cancer, died along with her partner and 2 female relatives during the attack in the early hours of the morning. Neighbours told how they heard screams coming from the 3-bedroom terrace house in Bermondsey for 5 minutes before armed police arrived. Today, forensic tents covered the street outside where some of the bodies were found. Live in Bermondsey for us tonight is Talk TV correspondent Oliver Whitfield-Miocic. Oliver, you've been on the scene all day.
Yes, Tom, along with the police and their specialist forensic officers who are now investigating this suspected quadruple murder at this family home not very far away at all from Millwall Football Club. Neighbours say they heard those blood-curdling noises coming from the house at very early hours of the morning. They then contacted the police. Officers who were in attendance had to break down the front door, and they say they made a dreadful discovery: 4 people who'd been stabbed. The man and woman, who are both in their 60s, and then 2 other women in their 40s and 30s, respectively. The police and London Ambulance Service say despite their best efforts, they died at the scene. Also at the same address, a person was taken into custody, believed to be responsible.
A man in his late 20s was arrested at the address on suspicion of murder, and he is currently in custody. And at this early stage, we're not looking for any other person. We believe that all those involved may have been known to each other.
Local MP Harriet Harman was here earlier on, passing on her condolences to family members as well as the wider community. The police say that they're stepping up patrols in a bid to bolster people's confidences. Now, when I've been speaking to people who live in this neighbourhood, they say it's usually a very safe area. People are more than happy to go out onto the street to speak to one another, more than happy to help one another. But they now say they felt that they've been left in a state of sadness, in shock, and some people say they do not feel safe.
If it's a nice day like this with the sun shining, and that's what he was doing the other day, putting the chairs out there so they sit out in the sunshine.
You just don't know what's happening. Happens anywhere now, doesn't it?
You're not even safe in your own home now, are you?
Tom, with these 4 latest deaths, it now means that there's been at least 27 homicides in the capital since the start of the year, the vast majority of them where a knife has been used as a weapon.
Oliver, thank you. To the crisis in Ukraine now, and a Talk TV exclusive tonight. The family of one of 2 British soldiers captured by Russia and interrogated online have spoken exclusively to this programme. Aidan Aslan's mother, Angela, told us Facebook have still not replied to hundreds of their requests for the online video to be taken down. Filming it was a breach of the Geneva Convention and a flagrant one. YouTube, however, did take down the video last week as soon as they were approached by Aidan's family. Angela also told us that her son has issued a direct appeal to the Prime Minister via her to free him in exchange for a captured ally of Vladimir Putin.
Facebook haven't responded to hundreds of people who have reported it. It shouldn't be allowed. This kind of promoting propaganda has to stop and cannot be broadcast on any social media.
Well, we'll bring you that exclusive interview with Aidan's family in full on the news desk a little later. But first, joining us live from Istanbul is the Sunday Times' Middle East correspondent, Louise Callahan. Louise, good evening. Facebook have clearly got some big questions to answer about how they've handled Aidan's appalling situation here. But tell us what you think the likelihood is of this prisoner swap ever happening.
Well, there have been several prisoner swaps made between Ukraine and Russia has been very, very exacting in that it wants to swap like for like. So civilian for civilian, soldier for soldier. But here we come into an issue because clearly the propaganda value for Russia of having these two British soldiers vastly, exceeds their value in their eyes. So that's why I think we're seeing these calls for them to be swapped for example, Viktor Medvedchuk, who's a very close ally of Putin, currently held in Ukraine. He was Putin's man in Ukraine before and was recently captured. So that's what we're going to be seeing here, just a lot of negotiations so that Russia can try and get the most response from Ukraine, the biggest value in their eyes from Ukraine in return for these prisoners.
Understood. No immediate signs of anyone listening quite yet, perhaps. Let's talk about something else, though, Louise. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is in Turkey today, where you are. Now, he's been a week of shuttle diplomacy to try and forge a new peace deal for Ukraine. The chances of that succeeding?
Well, so he's heading from Istanbul, from Ankara, where he was today, to Russia. He's going to meet Putin. He's going to meet Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister. Then he's going to head to Ukraine. Now, that decision has been criticized by Ukrainian President Zelensky, who said that he believes that Antonio Guterres should have gone to Ukraine first. So far, the peace talks, which have been held in Istanbul, have not resulted in much. There is a widespread belief in Ukraine among normal people and among the government that Russia negotiates in incredibly bad faith. So I think from the Ukrainian side, there's not a lot of expectation at the moment.
OK, Louise, thank you for that. Now, sticking with Ukraine, let's bring you the latest on the ground in the war. In the last hour, the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace has said 15,000 Russian troops have now died in the fighting. It comes as Ukraine was said to have fired missiles on a major fuel depot inside Russia. Social media footage shows two large explosions ripping through the depot, which is said to be vital for fueling Russian convoys attacking the Donbass. In retaliation, Russia launched a series of devastating strikes on key railway stations near Lviv in western Ukraine, which are being used to transport heavy weaponry from other nations. Let's take a look at the battlefield now, and 5 days into the new assault on the Donbass, Russia is still yet to make any significant gains, but fighting has left 5 people dead in Donetsk, including at least 2 children. In Kharkiv, 3 people were killed and 14 injured during relentless shelling. And in Mariupol, hundreds of civilians remain trapped in the besieged Azovstal steelworks. And staying with Ukraine, I wanted to show you this. One Russian football club has felt the need to do this. Officials at FC Yakutsk in eastern Siberia are removing all 12,000 seats in their stadium after they realised they were the same colours as, yes, Ukraine's national flag, blue and yellow. Lest, of course, anyone might have thought the club supported Ukraine in the war. Well, let's get some British politics now. And the hunt is on to find the anonymous Tory MP at the heart of a misogyny row, as the Speaker of the House of Commons took the very rare step today of summoning 3 senior journalists. He wants them to explain an article about Labour's Angela Rayner. Conservative whips are trying to find the MP who accused Miss Rayner of flashing the Prime Minister in the Commons chamber. Boris Johnson says he'll unleash the terrors of the earth on the person responsible. Well, joining us live from Westminster is TalkTV's political editor, Kate McCann. Kate, that's quite a step for the Speaker to summon journalists, isn't it?
Good evening, Tom. It is. In fact, we don't think it's ever happened in this way before. And as you say there, it's a reaction to that article in the Mail on Sunday over the weekend, which suggested that Labour's Deputy Leader Angela Rayner had tried to distract the Prime Minister in the House of Commons chamber by crossing and uncrossing her legs. And it's fair to say that the backlash to this article has been significant over the last 24 hours. In fact, it's come from across the political spectrum and the public too. And it includes the Speaker of the House of Commons, who, as you say, has made that unprecedented decision to haul in the editor of the Mail on Sunday, the journalist involved in writing the article, and the press gallery chair to a meeting on Wednesday, where he will ask exactly how that ended up in the pages of a national newspaper. Here's Sir Lindsay explaining earlier on today how he made that decision.
It can only deter women who might be considering standing for election to the detriment of us all. That is why I am arranging a meeting with the chair of the press lobby, the editor of the Mail on Sunday, to discuss the issue affecting our parliamentary community.
Now, my understanding is that at that meeting, the topic of conversation will be how the article was written and why it eventually appeared. But it will not likely result in the journalist who wrote it having his pass removed. So he will still be able to work in the House of Commons behind me. Now, that's really important because there had been some concerns, Tom, about press freedom. And the Speaker of the Commons himself has said that that's something that he is keen to defend. But it's not the end of the story for the anonymous Conservative MP who briefed the article, because the whips who are responsible for discipline in the House of Commons have been ferreting about today, trying to find out exactly who was responsible for speaking to the journalist in the Mail on Sunday. And in fact, tonight they've issued a plea for that person to come forward because they would like to mete out some discipline. In fact, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, who was on a campaign visit today, had this to say on the subject.
I thought it was a most appalling load of a sexist, misogynist tripe. You know, if we ever find who was responsible for it, well, I don't know what we'll do with them, but we'll be the terrors of the earth. But, you know, it's totally intolerable, that kind of thing.
Strong words there from Boris Johnson. Not, though, the topic of conversation that he would like to be focused on. He will haul his cabinet before him tomorrow to focus on the cost of living just ahead of those local elections. That's what he would like to be talking about. But this issue of the way women are treated inside Parliament and beyond it is not going to go away anytime soon.
What a mess. Kate, thank you. And we'll see you back in the studio shortly for our panel. Still ahead, we'll show you that exclusive interview with the family of Aidan Aslin as they plead with Facebook to remove videos of him being interrogated online by Russia. You're watching the News Desk live on TalkTV.